Is this thing working? I think this thing is working. I think we're live. We're live. What's happening, everybody? Everybody's having a fantastic whatever day you end up watching this. So a little bit late getting on the live tonight, getting the car ready for a track rental tomorrow. So we shall see how that goes. A little bit of a headwind. It's going to be pretty decent DA though. Basically using this as a bit of a dress rehearsal for what is going to end up being the Mopar Mageddon in January. So looking forward to that, but trying to get the car ready for that rental tomorrow. Main thing I want to do is get some data on the car. So I got the drag pack on the car. Everything's torqued up, got the seat out of the car. And really that's about it. I was out earlier collecting data on the car, making sure everything looked good. So far, everything looks fantastic. So no complaints on my end there. So I think the main goal for tomorrow is just to try to get, maybe 4-5 passes in total, just to, again, kind of assess where the car's at, make sure everything is good to go. And that way, when we start getting closer to January, the car is going to basically be in its final stage. In other words, it's going to have the last of any tune-up stuff that I'm going to need to do. I want to knock that out in one shot. So really looking at the launch of the car, it's kind of a bit of a behind the scenes. Got to get my bald head is shining like crazy. There we go. Kind of giving you guys a little bit of a behind the scenes. Gary, thank you very much, man. Gary's saying, what up, B? Love the truck quarter mile runs. Thank you so much. So yeah, we'll get to that too, man. So Stormy's putting in some work right now, guys. That thing is so much fun, and it's so much more fun than I ever thought that I would have with that truck, because it's a challenge to me. And the whole goal was, can I even get the thing to run a 13-second quarter mile, regardless of density, altitude, or whatever? Can I get it to run a number? And now the truck has gone a 1370, which is hysterical to me, because I didn't think the truck would really have it in it. It's a 321 geared truck. I mean, it kind of is what it is. So, but yeah, just working on the tune for the truck. It's running great. The main issue with the truck right now is just traction, guys. It's still rocking the Goodyear Wranglers on the back of it. So you can imagine rolling into the throttle. It just wants to start churning those things. In fact, it was no joke. In that video, that was the last of any of the passes that I was going to try to make with that truck. I was kind of in between doing other errands, and I thought, man, this is a great opportunity to, run across the border and, snag some seat time with the truck. And every roll in hit that I did, when the truck started rolling, it would start to boil the tires. And it wasn't like a mild haze. I would roll into the throttle, and even as I was dipping through still partial throttle, it would start lighting the tires up. And a lot of that has to do with throttle programming, although my throttle programming is stock on that truck. But even though the throttle is not all the way wide open, you can still be at ambient barometric pressure in the plenum, just because it's, you're drawing in the air, but the throttle blade's open enough to where you can do that at that RPM and load level. So anyway, long story short, the truck just lightened the tires up, which was fun, like the first 2 or 3 times it did it, but it got down to like the 4th or 5th time. And I was thinking, all you have to do, to myself, I'm thinking all I've got to do is try to roll into the throttle to where it maybe hazes the tires a little bit. Because I would actually, it would start to haze the tires. I'll be partial into the throttle. I go, yep, it'd start to haze the tires. I'd hold throttle. It would kind of catch up to itself. And as it's catching up, try to roll into the throttle a little bit more. And it would go, yep. And then go, yep. It was just like, it was turning up the wheel spin with the throttle. So anyway, that last hit, and I'm not kidding when I say it was the last hit, rolled into the throttle a little bit. It didn't haze the tires, and I just said, screw it, and matted the throttle. And I don't know how it hooked, but it hooked. So check out the stats on that pass. There's the 60 foot, there's 0 to 60, 8th mile for you 8th mile fans out there, and quarter mile. You can get your fill on that pass. It was a lot of fun. There was it got to the point where I wasn't really frustrated. It was actually fun. It was stop spinning the tires. Like when I go to wide open throttle, I would tip in and it would hook initially, and then I'd roll into it and go wide open and it would start spinning the tires. I'm going, this is fun, but I'm trying to get a number out of you, kid. But again, that's what you're going to be faced with, trying to run Goodyear Wranglers on a truck that's pretty lively. I think density altitude's probably, it was pretty deep. It was probably -600 or something, very similar to when it went to 1384. But in this case, it was pretty good. I made a couple of changes to the tune. I think really that's where that extra 10th may have come from, because it was just as difficult to launch it when it went 1384 as it was with the 1370. So anyway, it still worked out pretty good. The truck's running great. Absolutely love driving that thing. In fact, I look forward to driving that truck. I just, you can drive a truck, because it's just so much fun, man. Listen, the Hellcat Chandelier, Little Miss Revlon, she's a ripper, right? I mean, the car is fast, as evidenced by some of the data that I was collecting again today. I mean, I don't have any way to do a screen share on a live, but I've got in fact, I'm looking at it right now. Y'all are looking at me looking at my data. Anyway, the data look great. The car just screams, but anyway, it's a bummer I can't show you that, but it's weird how fast that car is, but it's weird how fast the truck is too. I didn't ever think that thing would ever run the number that it does. But getting back to it, the truck is a lot of fun to drive. And I find myself, again, I'm just, go drive the truck, because it sounds so good. I don't know that I have I don't know. It's one of the top best sounding vehicles that I've ever owned. But anyway, like I say, just trying to get the car around the other side of that wall, trying to get the car ready for tomorrow. I've got to put a little bit more fuel in it. Like I say, the data looked really good today on it. Surprisingly, with the age of that fuel, but it's not super old. I'm going to put a little bit of fresh gas in it to get it right. But again, the data, no knock retard, no noise or anything like that. Last time the car went to the drag strip was a couple of weeks ago. And actually, it's coming up on 3 weeks ago. Anyway, when it went to the drag strip, it was showing a little bit of noise because of some older fuel, but it was pretty legit older fuel. And so anyway, I tried to burn some of that out of the car today. And again, I'll put some fresh 93 octane in it and let her rip. But let's see. Let me catch up with you guys real quick. Chuck Rice is in. What's up? Sovereign's in. Eric saying good evening, Professor B. Good evening, Eric. Monter Red. What up, Professor B? What up, Monter? Hope you are doing well, my friend. Sovereign's hanging out with Chuck. Monter Red said, I'm getting ready for R2. I tell you what, I'm looking forward to it. My thing is I need to get some solid data. I got Mopar Jim cracked a dadgum 1006 on me. Guys. Anyway, I don't know if I'm going to be able to carry that. We're going to have a headwind. I'm kind of building in some excuses here already, but we're going to have a bit of a headwind. I already know that coming into this. But again, it'll be a good opportunity to gather up data. And I don't know. I'm not really trying to run. The car isn't going to run a number. I don't think. I don't think that Jim's number is or even my number is even in any real danger. But we're going to have decent barometric pressure. But again, that headwind's going to sting us a little bit. We'll see, though. Let's see. Oh, check it. Good evening. Ardell saying, hey, B, what's up, Ardell? Summer saying you're in 5.7 Evan. I'm having a ball with that thing. Carzola's asking, can I get an update on the Uconnect system to get the line lock on my 16 Cat? I'm not sure. You know, it's funny. You might be able to with the 16. The thing is that's all held up in the body control module. It's not really the Uconnect itself. However, you can update if you have a 16 and up car, not a 15. If you have a 16 and up car, you can update your Uconnect to the 2022 or the modern, what was it, 2019 and up, 2018 and up operating system. I know that Speedy did a video on that. It's actually real easy to do, but it does take a while for the Uconnect to talk to the body control module. I don't know that the line lock is in there, though. Not sure. But you can always get a Z Automotive taser that'll get you a line lock. But most of the guys I know don't even use a line lock on their car. Monterey saying 5.7 smoking those tires. For sure. Himmy Head saying, hey B, it's almost the season. Looking forward to some decent, less than 1,000-foot DA here in our Florida winter for sure. I tell you what, we're getting some good DAs right now, good clean air. So that's definitely a good thing. We'll just see how it ends up shaking loose. I can tell you that it's this time of year where everybody starts just getting all tongue wagging over about running a number. So I don't ever claim that as what my car or my truck runs. So if you're to ask me what is a number on Chandelier, in other words, what's Revlon's actual number that you would say it runs? I'd say it's a 10 teen car. In 0 DA, that car will run a high 10 teen. And in most every other DA that it runs in, it runs either a 1030 or a 1050, somewhere in between there. If I were to answer the same question about my truck, it would be, it's a 14.0 truck, but she'll run a 13, get her pointed in the right direction, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, it's Stormy will sneak up on you and get you. But yeah, Modern's hanging out with Gary saying, getting ready to hit the track. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Even though it's been a couple of maybe 3 weeks since I was actually on track, the track was doing pretty good. I think we're going to have one slick, one radial lane. Like I say, it's going to be kind of neat to get the car out there. There's going to be some friends of mine that are going to be there with some pretty cool vehicles. So, it'll be kind of fun to, catch some eyeballs full of a couple of trucks that I want to see run. But, overall, like I say, it's always a good time just to get down there and get running. It's mainly because it's just, the car's running so good right now. The tune that's on both of them, the tune that's in Revlon is actually, I pulled a little bit of timing out of Revlon in one key spot. I was having a weird issue, and I don't understand this. It's driving me absolutely nuts with this car. But I was having a weird issue with noise, knock sensor noise or something like that at around 5,800 RPM. And it was at 50, and the truck was at 5,200, I think. Actually, I think the Hellcat was at 52 and 59. Anyway, it was up there. And for whatever reason, it was consistent, but it was consistently noise. You'd get this like little flash number pop up on the knock sensor voltage, and it would yank timing. Well, that's annoying because you don't want your data to look like that. It doesn't make any sense. So I pulled timing out of it, thinking that if I pulled timing, if it's real knock, then obviously it's going to make the problem go away. And it didn't make the problem go away. And I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to play the game of trying to chase this weird knock thing. So I just took care of the problem the dirty way with the Hellcat. But I left the timing out of it just to be on the safe side. And what's weird is that it's not immediately after a shift. It's through what's really cool is that it's through a part, as from your point of view, as the RPMs are coming up. It's actually in a spot in the tune with my car that has zero modification from stock. Don't get it. So anyway, had to make some changes there. And then, and by the way, that is to say that the stock tune is actually kind of hot on the Hellcats. That's not to say that it's super conservative. It's not. The Hellcat tune is known, especially the 15s are known to be a little bit on the aggressive side. But we'll see. I mean, like I say, that car, I just ran it today and data looked gorgeous. The truck added fuel to it, richened it up a little bit, and let's see what else. Richened it up a little bit, played around with some of the tip in, the roll in timing. The thing about with that truck, though, is that it doesn't really do me any favors, because throwing more power at it down low and doing some other tricks to get the thing to make more power down low, all it does, it translates into wheel spin. So it's cool when the temperatures, or rather when the DA, I should say, for down here, DAs of like 1,000 feet, that you can just go into the throttle and the truck hooks and books. And that's why it kind of runs, it'll still run 13-second quarter mile times in those conditions, because I can get into the throttle quicker. Well, right now I can't do that. And so anyway, it is what it is. It's just, playing around the tune a little bit and fatten it up a little bit, which the truck seemed to like, which is weird. A lot of the Hemi guys don't realize that you can run these things rich and they actually like it. They'll reward you for it. Oh, Modern Red saying, hoping for low 10s, but it's the first TCM update. We'll see. Weather is supposed to be nice, 50 degrees and low humidity. You and I would be running the exact same numbers. As far as density, altitude is going to be pretty sharp for both of us. So get out there and run a number, my friend. I'm looking forward to seeing your success. Gary saying, just bought a 22 Challenger Scat Pack wide body Hemi orange edition. Nice, pitch black and badass. I like it. Chuck saying, a bit warm in Vermont here today. Deer hunting was quiet. Nice. That's right. Opening season. Arnold saying, Gary Fuller, congrats. Chuck saying, need some snow. Yeah, it's weird. So down here, we trade at this time of year down here in good old Southeast Texas. You're trading 80-degree days for 55-degree days. And you'll do that throughout the whole winter. Like, it's weird. Down here, and other places, I'm sure do the same thing, but it's just kind of, I don't know, it's just one of those things. But just last week, it was 82 degrees and hot. Like, everybody's sweating. And then, we get maybe 3, 4, 5 days of cold air, and then you're done. It just goes away. So, one of the Pacific fronts will blow through and it'll be 80-something degrees again. So, it is what it is. It's the varying density altitudes. Gary saying, thanks, driving it every day. 60 Hemi Power saying, yo, Dr. Mason, Pulley already. It's funny. I was talking to a good friend of mine about that today. In fact, I was talking to Orange Crush about that today. And this comes up quite a bit. It's one of those things where you're like, well, to Pulley or not to Pulley? Is it really an upgrade? I'll give you guys an idea, though. It's one thing to just throw more Pulley at it and just go faster. But the problem that I have with that is I'm not really, I know that I can't really use the power. I'll give you, again, a perfect example of that. Today, when I'm data logging the car. Oh, y'all are going to love this. So part of me doing the data logging was checking air charges and things like that. She's drawn a lot of air right now, and she's drawn enough air to where if I did pulley it, it would obviously it'd be pulley, injectors. I would probably want to do a fuel change. I know what I can get away with in terms of 93 octane. The problem that I have, though, is that you've got to remember that it's 93 octane civilian pump gas. Okay. This isn't 93 octane that comes in a drum. So there's some concessions, or rather concessions probably the right word, honestly, but some compromises really that you have to make when you're working with 93 octane. So for me, I think really anything more than a stock pulley you'd almost want to go with the 85. I know a lot of guys are going to argue with me about that, but the reality is that you can still run nines with a 285 upper pulley. 295 upper pulley will run a 9 in really deep DA. But the reality is that you're always kind of looking over your shoulder. You're always a little bit sketchy on 93 octane when you start pulling these cars. They just simply weigh too much. But it's not just the weight. They have the aerodynamic coefficient of drag of a common backyard shed. I mean, they're just not the best when it comes to slicing their way through the atmosphere. So there's a lot of dynamic load, induced drag, if you will, being placed on this contraption that you're trying to get running through the quarter mile. So I don't know if I did decide to do it, it would probably require me going to twin pumps, 1200 cc injectors, and just going with a small pulley and running it on 93 octane, but allowing me just to be able to go in and make a quick tune switch over to E85. Chuck saying my scat pack is in storage mode. I may need depression meds. I know the feeling, my friend. Dad saying, think of putting a tune on the wife's 2021 RT Tow and Go Durango. Very cool. It doesn't take much to wake those things up a little bit. It'll at least be more lively to drive. Chuck saying, riding around in my Honda SUV, like, man, this is not the scat for sure. Him saying, Scatback question you probably get tired of answering. What would you do to get about NA 500 wheel horsepower in a 392? Mine is running strong with the standard bolt-ons, but I get it. So here's the thing, man. I put a lot of combinations together for guys that end up making 500 horsepower to the rear wheels on a dyno jet. But a lot of that has to do with, it's easy to get 500 horsepower on a dyno jet to the rear wheels, provided the dyno jet is relatively optimistic about the power that you're making. I've seen dyno jets vary as much as 5 or 6% one to the next. But usually the walking around number for just a simple cam with, FBO 392 is going to get you around 500 horsepower, between 490 and 505, let's say. The thing is you've got to be honest with yourself. And is 500 horsepower really the goal that you're looking for? Because if you're full bolt on the way that it sits now, let's say you've got the long tubes, you've got cleaned up intake, you've got a fast man throttle body, you've got the tune that makes it all come together. If you've got everything already done to this car, and I'll even throw in E85, although I would not recommend it for an NA application for these cars anyway. You will have gone from roughly 400 horsepower on a Mustang dyno. Now I got to translate this from one to the next, but let's say you started off life and it's making about 400, 405 on a Mustang dyno, which is about the running average. Some are a little bit more, some are a little bit less, but dyno variances here. Let's say it's at 410, just for sake of argument. You'll go from 410 to 425, maybe 430 on a Mustang dyno. And that's with everything. And it'll mainly be tilting the curve up in the back. You'll be getting more torque more than really horsepower. But you can pick up, obviously a little chunk of power up there. Well, then you go to put a cam in the thing. And typically a cam from the full bolt-on spot, and this is a small cam. This is a streetable, a cam that's not going to be a real pain in the butt to drive, something that basically just makes the car run like it's got more displacement, really. And that's how the cams that I would put together would work. Like what was in Quick Brick's car, for example. And that would take you up to like maybe 465, 470 to the rear wheels. And if you translate that up in power, that'll put you at about 495, 497 to the rear wheels on a dyno jet. It's going to take a cam to get there, but more to the point, it's going to take a really good tune, and it's going to take an honest tuner a bit of time to really get it right as far as load testing it on a loaded dyno and everything else. So, but you can claim if you put a cam in one of these things and it's got a good tune from a reputable tuner, it's going to be easily 500-ish horsepower. And I say ish, could be 505, 495. You've got 500 horsepower. It'll be in that range with the more, the more easily recognizable cam specs that you would put in the car. You know, like a 222, 232 type of a cam. Cams that guys are getting really used to seeing now, because that's kind of where most of the cam grinders end up with these cars. That with a good set of valve springs, push rods, and the long tubes and just the stuff to go along with it, that'll put you right there. So, let's see. But hopefully that answers the question. I love answering the question. I've been involved with so many of those builds. I mean, I just rattle the things off the top of my head. I'll caution you though, because if somebody says, well, I put a bigger cam in my Hemi, usually what that means is that you've given up drivability. And the thing is that, and this is really easy to do. It's really easy to screw up a Gen 3 Hemi by putting too big of a cam in it, because you end up losing some of that real snappy bottom end torque. The trick is to put a small cam in a Gen 3 Hemi and let the cylinder heads do all the work for you. Don't try to treat one of the Gen 3 Hemis, or an LS3 for that matter. Don't treat the modern V8 the way that you would treat like a Windsor motor or like a small block Chevy. They do not translate whatsoever in terms of cam specs. The cam that you would put in like a small block Chevy, for example, that cam, that would be like a relatively, like a good street strip grind, something like a, I don't know, 232, 240 type grind on a 110 it would make that 383 with a good set of heads, make peak power at like 6,000 RPM, 6,200 RPM. The Hemi would try to keep making power to like 7,300 RPM. It's just because the heads flow so much more. Bigger is absolutely not always better when it comes to the Hemi stuff. And you're going to have to give up a little bit. But here's the other thing. Don't get suckered into, well, I'm going to put like the sniper intake on it or whatever the short runner is. Just don't do it, because you're going to wipe out all the torque down low, and that engine's going to be trying to make peak power north of $7,000, is a place you don't really want to be for the street. 6.2's in saying went 980 at $142 on MS-109 with a 285 only, but I get your point with the power change. I'd suggest flex tune. And the problem with a flex tune is that I can't get one that'll also accommodate timing. So I still have to go in and change the timing figures. I haven't found one that's going to kind of get us there yet with, being able to run a true sensed flex tune system. Although Direct Connection is supposed to have that operating system for one of their new crate motors. I'd like to see that technology waterfall down. And 980 at $142 on MS-109 with a 285. Actually, that's actually one of my favorite combinations for the Hellcats, is one like Mean Cat, just like you, 285 upper, and his with what is in essence 100 octane, same thing, 98, 97, still in the same range as you guys are in. I think he's at 1. I don't think he covered the same mile an hour, but MS-109 is more heavily oxygenated than what he'd be running. Man, I mean, it's for the guys that are going to keep the car on the street. It's actually a really clean setup. Chuck saying, yeah, smash the like button for B. Sovereign's got his, hit that like button. And if you're new, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell. Definitely helps, guys. Any subscriber count really does help with the YouTube way that YouTube works. Hit Hemi's very good eye. Says, by the way, is that an Olmo? Yes, it is. Talking about the bicycle right behind me. Good Italian bike with a long racing history. Used to club race and saw a few awesome European parts. I had an old Miata that I love, but it was a Japanese bike. Yes, it is. It is a Giuseppe Doug Olmo. So I've got in fact, I'm going to be giving that a tune-up here. So yes, very good eye, my friend. Forgot that it was sitting right behind me too. But yeah, I love that bicycle. Alberto's asking, hey, V, what are your thoughts about the 390 gear or 392 car with an automatic trans? It's lively. I will tell you that. The only downside that you'll find is that first and second gear become, it's like you're trading a gear down, basically. So second gear kind of acts like first gear. First gear is just a lot more aggressive and you lose eighth gear. That's the best way that I can explain to you what it's like to drive a car with a 390 gear. I've only driven, did I drive it at the track? Years ago, I drove a lot of NA combinations at the drag strip for guys. I think one of the ones that I drove had the 390 gear in it. Or was it a 370? No, that was a 370 geared car. And the 370 geared car ran really good. We had a NAG 1 with a 426 and a 390 gear. That one, fairly lively, but again, you lose some of the gear multiplication that you have in the 8-speed. So it was like driving a really good running cammed 392, only because the gear ratios. That car, again, it's a little bit buzzy on the highway, but I mean, if you're not really affected by that too much, it can, again, make it pretty light, but you've got to have a tune to go along with it. So what happens is with that gear in the car, it'll trigger a yip for the 1-2 shift. And the reason for that is the predictive shift algorithm thinks you're going to hit a rev limiter before the shift can be completed. And that's what causes a yip. And so you've got to go in and make some changes in the tune to accommodate that. Unfortunately, you can't adjust anything. It's a bit kind of not really hacky. You just have to adjust parameters for the car. Rev limit type stuff. Frederick's saying, what's cooking, B? I got the arm flex. I like it. Getting the car ready for tomorrow. Tad saying he's putting nitrous on his 392 Daytona over the winter. Very nice. Modern Red's asking, speaking of cam, what cam would you put in a 5.7 Pro Charged application? Talking about a max effort style. So for a Pro Charged application, and again, this would assume different pistons and, something with a little bit more maybe of a fly cut to it, but you can still get away with it with kind of a street profile. What I would do in that situation, the cam I would put together would be something with an intake center line somewhere around 108-ish degrees. And I would go with an intake duration somewhere probably in the 220, like if it's a Texas speed grind, it'd be 223-ish. Monterey saying, thanks, brother. You got it, brother. Thank you. Somewhere around 223-ish. On the exhaust side, I would probably hang that somewhere around 232, 234, somewhere right in there. LSA, I would look for a lobe separation angle, probably somewhere around 113, 114 at the most. 114 would actually be pretty cherry in that application. But that would be the cam I would put together. And if that cam kind of starts to sound familiar, that type of a cam being rocked that far forward, you go, man, that sounds like an NA cam. That doesn't really sound like a blower cam. Well, what I'm trying to do with that cam is I'm trying to build as much mid-range power as I can as your boost is creeping upwards. I'll allow the compressor to just drag your horsepower as far out as it can manage to do so. And that's the idea for that compressor, is to drag power out by about 600, 700, 800 RPM. So I know that I'm going to be giving up peak power potential, but what I'm doing is I'm creating a situation where when you shift, so RPM goes up, 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 then it shifts. You're sitting in a fatter portion of your torque curve, which will help you for about the next 40 to 50 feet of the car right after the shift. Basically gives it a little bit of a nudge by hitting that fatter portion of your torque curve. So that's the way I would do it. I would put together a cam kind of in that range for a 5.7. That would be right pretty much where you would need to be. I wouldn't go necessarily much bigger than that. Just remember, you are going to dump quite a bit of boost if you're used to running with like a stock cam or something like that. But it's going to make more power. So then the trick there is, well, do you ramp up with more boost and match what you're making before? That's entirely up to you. If it's my car, I would probably throw a little bit more pulley at it once you put the cam in it. And that's going to help things along just in terms of bringing that level of efficiency back. But when you put the cam in, you ramp up your efficiency. And again, we're talking about a boosted application. So the idea is to tailor the engine for what it is that you're going to be doing with the car anyway. So I don't know. I would probably, there's some variation with that. Some guys will say, yeah, but if you rock that kind of cam back a little bit, it'll allow the car to rev out a little bit better. My argument to that is it's already going to rev high enough as it is. That cam that I just got through rattling off the top of my head, I know that with the stock intake manifold, even with some work done to it, bigger throttle body, which NA would help you, it doesn't help you on the boosted side. But I mean, you're still looking at about 6,400 RPM, give or take, 6,600 RPM. So it's still going to drag that power out. The other side to it is I wouldn't want to put a cam together that just gets on your nerves. Oh, Hemi, I just saw the comment. Thanks for commenting on the drivability, streetability. Talking about not sure if the juice is worth the squeeze in terms of cam stuff. So the thing is that, and Hemi brings up a good point. I mean, it is all about drivability. And I would hate to say that, wow, you've got this cam and you're making all this power, but the car really isn't drivable. You're talking about a max effort operation here, though. And, but max effort also would imply that, okay, well, we've got a max effort camshaft. Okay, so that means we're running on corn. We're running about 28 pounds of boost. We're running with a completely different torque converter. You know what I mean? Like, so I've got to be mindful of what the use of the vehicle is. And that's why for me, what guys usually typically mean by that is, well, it's going to be street and strip. And for that, you got to have at least some level of idle quality. It's got to kind of be able to play nice with the torque converter, hence a little bit wider lobe separation angle. But again, it's going to take some tuning to get it to work right. I can tell you that for sure. So just know that coming into it. It'd be a little bit rowdy sounding too, but it'd be a flat out ripper, no doubt about it. Gary Fuller saying, Don's the man. Don's good. Love the build. Oh, Hemi, yeah, talking about again, talking about drivability. That's the toughest part, man. Is trying to explain that the rattier the cam is, you can end up in a situation where it's more of a pain to drive than anything else. And so I just know too many guys that have cammed Gen 3 Hemis only to end up not liking them. If the cam matches the car well, it's a dream to drive. But usually once you start getting past, I'll put it to like this. This is what I would not put. This is the profile I wouldn't put in a 5.7, even for boosted application. Something that would be something that would be in the range of like 220 for a 5.7, 226 and up would be a little bit much for the street. The heads just flow too much. You got to remember that the heads for a 5.7, for these modern 5.7s, they, for practical purposes, I know the number is not the same, but they flow the same as a 392 head. I mean, when you start getting, okay, you're comparing 315 CFM to 332 or 340, whatever, 300, actually 330 is the walking around number for the 392 head. So basically you have big block heads on a small block. And what that does, it makes cams, I mean, just a slight difference in cam on a typical wedge head is a drastic difference, or can yield a drastic drivability difference with a head that is taking air in big gulps the way that the 5.7 does. Chuck's saying Don's going to end up with a full race car with a shaker 5.7. The car runs good, no doubt about it. Modern Head saying eventually, yeah. Siren saying like, share, and subscribe. Yes. Looking for likes, shares, and subscriptions. Oh, speaking of like different stuff on the channel, I recorded a video, but I recorded it twice. And both videos are terrible or practically unwatchable, but Modern Red drivability, blah, 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 let's go fast. I love it. Yeah, in your case, yeah, just kitchen sink it. But no, that cam would be, I'll put it to like this. It would be a smaller version of the cam that I put together for demonology. It's, well, significantly smaller, but very similar in terms of, power output. Although this is really more for centrifugal than his is. His cam's actually funny looking. If you're looking at it, you go, oh, that is absolutely a positive displacement blower cam. So it's okay. So let's talk about something. And I'm going to basically give you guys that are on the show right now, we're going to do the video that I've recorded twice that I can't get. I don't know. I can't get past this video that I was trying to put together. Standalone video, what it is. God, it's even harder for me to get to the point here, isn't it? So here's the deal. It's a video talking about the 6, but 7 last call edition Challengers and Chargers. And the way that particular video is going, and I'm just going to have to publish one of them because neither one of them are very good, but I want to just get the message out there. But do any of those cars mean anything to you? Like, do the legends, the so-called legends that they're putting out there for you to try to gravitate towards and build up any feel? Does it build any feelings for you? Does it conjure up any sense of nostalgia or pride to hear about, the cars like the Black Ghost, the King Daytona? Does that do anything for you? Or the Swinger editions? Like, does that, you have like maybe an aunt or an uncle that had like a Swinger Dart or something like that you used to like to ride in, or that still has it that you'd like to drive or like to have them ride it? You know what I mean? Like, does that 50-year-old stuff do anything for you? And I ask the question because, and I talk more in the video about it. It kind of feels forced and demographic, the way that Dodge has got the youngest demographic, although not by much. It's still out there. They like to tart up the youth market and all this other stuff, but they keep bringing back these old, moldy ass so-called legends that nobody knows anything about. It's almost like they're trying to write their own narrative as far as like it's like a create your own legend Mad Libs almost, if you will. And so that's kind of where I was going with a couple of the videos. And Modern Red is out. Hey man, listen, get out there and knock them dead. Let us know how you do. Let me know how you do, man. I'm excited to hear about your success, Modern. So get out there. I'm looking forward to it, buddy. Have a good night. Early mornings, I know. the thing is that, how do I put this? Okay, what about the modern legends? I mean, if you're going to call Black Ghost a legend, if you're going to call King Daytona a legend, well, what is it really? Like, what about modern legends? Like, why isn't there a Demonology Edition Challenger? Why isn't there an excessive Racer X's old Charger? Why isn't there an excessive edition? Why is there not a Little Miss Revlon edition? You know, a Hellcat 309 gear stock boost, but very, very simple, you know, drag pack, if you will, a 1320 Hellcat. Why is it that there's not a Speedy edition? Shit, Speedy has been helping people, you know, with YouTube videos, like how-to videos since forever. Why is there not a Speedy edition? These guys that have been flying the Mopar flag with the modern Hemis, with these modern Challengers and Chargers, and really doing good for the Mopar community and really being a backer and a supporter for Mopar in general, why don't they have their own special editions? You know, there's a lot of folks that are out there that would be able to relate with that so much better than if you were talking about some kind of contrived tall tale from half a century ago. I mean, y'all tell me, I mean, would y'all be cool with if they came out with an excessive edition Charger? You know, the red rocker paint scheme, 309 gear, you know, just a really cool looking but performance enhanced Charger. You know, you know, some kind of a, you know, just a sticker package or whatever to go along with that, like custom graphic or whatever. Why not something like that? Because there are ways to incorporate the modernness of the LX platform and the modern Gen 3 Hemi. You can do that with the now. You don't have to reach back to ancient history. You know, and again, I'll offer up Revlon as an example. There is not a 1320 edition Hellcat. Haven't you noticed? Like, okay, so as an aside, what I wanted to do with Revlon is I wanted to make that car, it's a parts bin car, right? So you take this car and you put just factory parts in it, and it's lighter, it's quicker, it's got a more aggressive gear, and it's just like a Mopar parts bin car. It's a direct connection car, if you will. And it goes out in the world and it runs really low tens in really good weather. What's not to love? Like, that would be a cool addition. And you can harken it back to, yeah, it's, you know, one of the first cars to run a 10.0. One of like a handful of cars that have even run a 10.0 on stock boost and gasoline. And there's a direct line of sight to somebody in the community, the same way that there would be with Demonology, with Speedy, with Racer X, and the list goes on. And I only include myself in this just because it's my show and I can, but you can kind of understand where I'm going with this. There's other people that are significantly more qualified, I'm sure, than I am, but the reality is that they're not going to be recognized. And there's people that have done a lot more for the Mopar community, you know, than I have, that won't end up getting recognized. But these people, these so-called legends from back in the day, they're not even alive to be able to see the fruits of their labor come to this. You know, and so again, I mean, you've got to ask your grandparents what any of that even meant, and if they even know anything about it. And if they do know anything about it, chances are they learned it from the internet. So, well, there's that. So anyway, I figured I would just kind of throw that past you guys. I've literally recorded that video twice, and it is one of the weirder videos. See, sometimes another behind the scenes thing, a lot of times putting a video together goes like this. I mean, it's like me and you guys talking right now. I just put out the video. I talk about something, try to keep it fairly digestible, less than 10 minutes. And, but it's just me and you guys talking. And it's just, instead of having interaction, it's just me and you guys chatting it up. And a lot of times they come out like that. Other times it is it's like you're pulling a plow. You get started and you start talking, and the next thing you know, bug flies up your nose. You're like, fuck, by the way, I am thinking about putting out a blooper reel as I'm putting videos together. Remember guys, I don't do any editing. And that's one thing that I promised I just would not do unless it's pause editing, which is real-time pause editing, which is all I do. There is no going back and fixing something. So if I am on a roll and everything's going great and I get a gnat fly up my face and I'm over here basically slap boxing myself, it either stays in the video or I got to start the whole thing over. So anyway, there was one, I forget, honestly, well, I can take the best example of that is if you watch my Pacifica review. That is nothing but pause editing. And that was the 6th take. And I literally ran out of daylight and I ran out of time. I had to go turn that vehicle back in. So there's a fun backstory behind that. I actually hit my knee on that final take getting in to show something with the seat. And part of me is like holding back like screams. And anyway, it just kind of is the way that it works out. But anyway, some videos are a lot easier than others. I'll just leave it at that. Let's see. Let me get back up here real quick, guys. Chuck's okay. I'm just getting back to Chuck. Yeah, fast doesn't have to be comfy. Yep. Modern Red's got the thumbs up and the flex. Siren said you did some work for Demonology. I didn't know that. Yes, I actually spec'd his camshaft and his valve springs, and basically his camshaft and his entire valve train. That is me. So, and that car, I'll put it to you like that. I will not give you numbers on that. And I certainly wouldn't give the cam specs, but I will tell you this. It picked up a bunch of power, and I will just leave it at that. I mean, an obnoxious amount of power. So, but yeah, it's running really good. Crunkle's saying, B Mason, you're the man, buddy. Thank you very much. I appreciate the kindness. Chuck saying my scat roars and track mode is stiffer than John Holmes. Man, I'm telling you, they sound so good. Gary Fuller, no, except the orange edition. Modern Red's checking out, say night all early morning to get to the track. Professor B is the man. Thank you, Modern Red. I appreciate you. Yeah, I am not doing a full 2 hours tonight, guys. I got to swap out. Well, I've already got the tire swapped out. I need to put fuel in the car, and I got a couple of things I got to get done this evening. So getting that thing ready to go. Chuck saying, later, dog, good night. Gary saying, night, Modern. Let us know how you do, Modern. So we're saying, oh, hell yeah. Okay, so Demonology and Racer X editions. Yeah, Soul Snatcher edition, Excessive edition. So we're saying Racer X, Demonology, and B Mason, top following YouTube channels. Thank you very much, my friend. Yeah, I mean, it would be kind of cool. I mean, and you've got other racers too. The Ray Z edition, he was the guy that was, I was one of my good friends that passed away that had the demon that we went out and had the fastest as delivered demon on record, and did that twice with 2 different demons. Back to backed it actually when a 978 and a 978 and 977, I think, are the 2 numbers that those cars ran. I know 978 was the F8 green one. And then the red line red one went 977, I believe. BB's asking, is it me or the TA a missed opportunity instead of just another sticker car? I would have made the TA 57 only car with SRT brakes, rear seat delete, and all the Mopar performance parts. The TA was kind of a head scratcher for me because it was a little bit premature in my estimation. I would have loved to see the TA be the first wide body offering. I thought that would go along a lot better with the history of the TA being an SCCA road race car, but that's just kind of me. But the TAs are great cars. Chuck saying demonology is badass for sure. Sovereign saying facts. Sovereign's got the 2 channels up. Very good. Red Dog saying, road and track suspension. I mean, I always thought that the TA, like I say, it answered a question that nobody was asking, and a cool package though. I mean, I thought it was an amazing idea, using the hood scoop as a functional air grabber, if you will, for that intake. Although it's the kind of a weird jog. There's some engineering with the TA package that I would definitely have done differently. I'll just leave it at that. Let's see, making sure I'm not missing something here. Bear with me, guys. Hold on just a second. Behemoth saying, what's up, brother? Saying another question why is Dodge attempting to split the face of the aftermarket that has pushed the Hellcat to the limits with this electric? Only Dodge could mod your vehicle so it's done right. Yeah, so Dodge is talking about they will be the only ones that they will allow to modify your EV. I think the aftermarket will have a little bit of something to say about that. I got to say that, I'm not so sure that I want Dodge tuning anything right now. I mean, if the stories are true about the 7th offering having blown up 7 engines, get out of here. Anyway, if that has any just grain of truth to it, I would be a little bit worried about Mopar tuning anything. So, but I don't know what they're really all that concerned with, and only Dodge can tell us. But I think it's an absolute joke, and they're already trying to do that with other naturally aspirated, any other internal combustion engines as it sits. So I don't know. I think that is just so dumb. And what are they worried about? You ain't gonna window the block on an electric motor. Come on, man. And I think what it is, if any of the Teslas have anything to say about this, and some of the other EVs, the guys that are out there just hammering the crap out of EVs, because why not? I mean, it's you're driving around a can opener, right? I mean, you should be able to go wide open whenever you want. Well, the problem is putting that much torque through the chassis is having a nasty habit in some of these cars of snapping motor mounts. So anyway, maybe that's what they're worried about, but they're doing that stock. So I don't know. But could you imagine pulling all the torque management out of an electric motor? What, hey, buddy? What about burnouts for distance? Think first saying, what's up? What's up, Think? I like it. Thank you so much. Someone saying, Hellcat Pacifica. I'm in. I had a lot of fun in that Pacifica I was playing with. Think first is they merged with Fiat. Yeah. Yeah, they got more problems than just that. That's one of their problems, that's for sure. Let's see, Earache's hanging out with Sovereign. I mean, it's saying Dodge should just have made enough of the popular the V8 so anybody could buy one. I toyed with going from Scat Pack to Hellcat several times in the 19 to 20 time. Then prices went nuts. For sure, they went crazy. Chuck saying, okay, B, sounds like you have some work to do. Catch you on the next show. Yep, I will be checking out here in just a minute, guys. I got to start getting that car or finish getting that car ready. But good seeing you, Chuck. Siren saying, some of the best things that actually came from the whole COVID BS, finding B Mason, demonology, and racetracks and channels. Well, thank you very much. Yeah, we kept rocking right straight through it. Michael saying, OC Motivator, the money edition. Hell yeah, dude. F8 green. How sweet would that be? Siren's asking, do I think the Banshee will get a Hurricane engine? It's my understanding of that platform is that it will handle a hybrid layout. The problem with that is it's not like you just go, oh, it can go either or. It doesn't work like that. When you're putting chassis together for an EV, the battery tray itself is integral to the structure of the car. So an internal combustion engine with the accompanying transmission and driveline parts, even though it would be a hybrid, it would almost have to be in this case. But if it weren't, that you have to create a chassis that is modular in design, because the whole bottom tray portion of an EV is nothing but batteries, and it just does not accommodate internal combustion drivetrain. So it's could it be done? For sure it could and can be. It's just, will they get to it? I don't know. The thing is that it takes some pretty clever engineering to make a dual purpose chassis work. It's like jack of all trades, master of none, except in this case, it's going to be heavy, to say the least. Crypto Cat's in. I like it. Beam is saying, I get doing it on internal combustion engine units for emissions, but there's no call for it on electric, for sure. Other than money, I can't see a reason for it. I'm the same way. Siren's hollering out at Chuck. Beam is saying, and I definitely have something to say about lock tuning, for sure. Chronicle's asking about, Matt's TRX. I went a 999 was the quickest that I'm aware of it running. And I will be hanging out with him tomorrow. So, yeah, I believe it went, well, I don't believe, I know I was there when the truck went 999. So that was pretty cool. Sovereign saying, yeah, I was thinking the shell would fit on an ICE chassis. Actually, there isn't a shell. It's just skin wrapped around. I mean, it's just like the cars that are out now. I mean, you've got an outer skin on what is in essence the platform that they're building it on. So, yeah, I don't know, man. And they're not going to build two separate chassis. I wouldn't think. It'd be two completely different platforms, would be my guess. Think First saying, I used to get frustrated with my EV RC cars. They are two in the same concept. They don't stay charged like they should. They're both still junk at the moment. I don't know. I still got Bomb Pop sitting over there. It's an SC8E that I had converted to. When I lived in Northern California, used to mess around with that stuff quite a bit. Had a lot of experience with the EV type stuff. It's actually sitting right. I'm looking right at it. Use top speed type stuff. Gary's out saying later B. See you, my friend. I think first I used to run mine hard and they would just burn down. I haven't messed with any 6S stuff. I did a lot of 5S with the Castle. I think that one's got a Castle 2650 in it. Used to run 2200s and made the switch in 2650. I don't know. I like the 2200 a little bit better. 26 a little bit aggressive. Let's see. I don't know why that one got held. Oh, Sovereign saying, I think the lipos puff up because something happens to the electrode. It can. A lot of it has to do with the electrode. Sometimes overcharging can cause it. Just being beat up a little bit, the internal structures of it go bad, and that's when they puff up. I actually watched on an indoor course. I saw a guy's lipo actually go pop, and it blew up right there sitting on his table. Red Dog saying, getting long tubes installed. Are there any I should avoid with a lowered setup to limit scraping? I'll tell you, I don't know if I would say there are any to avoid, but get Cook's headers. Cook's typically have the best fitment of any of the headers. Stainless Works are good too. But I know a little bit more about Cook's than I do about Stainless Works. So between those two, I think you'll be in pretty good shape. And Cook's is going to have the best quality, no doubt about it. But guys, with that, hate to cut it short, but I got to get a car ready for tomorrow. But listen, guys, I appreciate y'all a ton. Would not do this without you. Love each and every one of y'all, man. Make it worth it for me for sure. Guys, get out there and do something cool for somebody. Chances are they need it way more than you know. And with that, I got to wrap it up. We'll see y'all on the next one. If I post up that video, that I was talking about earlier, that you kind of already seen it, but there it is. I wanted to put something out there. I kept stumbling all over that. So who knows? Maybe I'll record it 3 or 4 more times before I put it out. Who knows? Anyway, with that, guys, I got to wrap it. Take care.